Hello, Beverly. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Carly. Very well. And yourself?
Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for taking the time out today to be interviewed for Wellness TV News. I've got a few questions for you today. So we'll start with our first question, Beverly. Your specialism is helping people overcome adverse childhood experiences, which is fascinating and I imagine quite intense and quite involved. And I just wanted to know, can you tell me, how you got to this point um, of working with people with adverse childhood experiences and in your sort of personal and professional life, how this relates to you?
Yes, I'm more than happy to do that. I think we'll start from the beginning to a certain extent. So, first of all, it's my own lived experience that's started my journey here. So, as the eldest sibling of 6 children that my mum had, she did have 2 others, but she kept 6. At a very early age, it was 4, and I had a brother of 3 and a sister of 2, and we were taken into care. I still remember the day, and we were taken in a black police van, Black Mariah, as they used to call them in those days. It's a bit different now. They were all very lovely, but we were taken away for a place of safety. At that time, it wasn't traumatic. It was something that was happening, and everybody was smiling. But then I do have very clear memories of it. And we're taken into a children's home, which was wonderful, place called Avenstow. Absolutely wonderful memories. And we stayed there till I was 10. And I still remember that. It was December, and we were told that we were going to go home, live with our parents, be reunited. And at that time, we'd had another brother join us in the children's home. So 4 children were going back home to join mum and dad with a brother and a sister. So they were going to have 6 children all together in time for Christmas, which sounds wonderful, and that's what everybody wants to hear. However, that completely traumatized me, and I spent the next 3 nights having very traumatic dreams. And the reason is I was going home to my abuser, and I am a survivor of sexual abuse by my father. So the last thing I wanted was to go home.
Be there, of course.
So he'd actually started abusing me from the age of I was late 3, just turning 4 in the May, so it was around that time. And obviously on regular visits as we went home during the years we stayed in the children's home. And at the age of 10, when I was told I was being sent home, I didn't have the language to say why I didn't want to go home, especially when there is part of you that's what you want. You want to be with a mum and dad and in a normal family. So we all went home to live with my mum and dad. And for the first year, everything was fine. Lots of support from everyone around. However, by the age of 12, 13, I became the main carer. In the summer of 77, we didn't have any gas and we didn't have any electricity. And then in that November, we were taken back into care. And this is something I'm very positive about, as in I'm always thankful and eternally grateful because people had the courage to pick up the phone and speak to the NSPCC because they had some concerns.
Wow.
So when people are not sure and they hear something and they get a feeling, I would always say, just phone up.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
nothing happens straight away.
No.
After a few calls, it flagged up, and then they realised our past experience. So we all went back into care. Sadly, because of borough and various legal reasons, we were split up. So 3 of us went back into the borough of Bromley and 3 were in the borough of Croydon. And I spent the next 2 years in another lovely children's home in Beckenham in Kent. And at 15, I was fostered by my English teacher, which was
Wow.
lovely. Yes, it's what I wanted. And to be fostered at that age as well is not easy.
No.
However, it only lasted for a year. And that's because, you know, there are some everyday issues that I just didn't know myself as well. So,
Right.
16, when it all broke down, I could have gone back into care, but I decided that I wanted to go and live independently with some support, because when you're in care at 18, you're completely on your own. So I
Wow.
went to live in a hostel at 16, and I knew then I would change my life around.
Wow.
So back then the criteria was to to have a job, earn income, because that's what paid for the roof over my head, my security, and that's what I've done. And in my 20s, emotionally, I survived. Just, rebuilding my life, and with my own personal emotions, I shut them down, and that's very common with the survivor of adverse childhood experiences, because you're using all the skills that you've learned to get through your childhood, to then advance in your adulthood.
Right.
And it was only in my early 30s, when I had 2 children, that suddenly, I didn't really know why, that everything was falling apart. So my son was becoming the age I was, and it was mirroring. So that's when I took the decision back then to have counselling the first time.
Okay.
And I didn't understand the correlation at that time of the physical, the emotional, and the mental impact. So I was also very ill at that time. And it was after that, and it was with a charity called Family Matters that were in Gravesend in Kent, and they're still there. I had a wonderful counsellor, and it was after that journey that I started to learn so much. Well-being started to come into my focus, not as much as it does now, and I didn't understand it, but it was the start of my own personal journey. Where I was evolving myself, I was also meeting other survivors now, 1 or 2, and I started to share with people around me that I was also a survivor, which is something. I look back now, and yes, as a survivor, especially of sexual abuse, you carry that guilt and that shame. It's not yours to carry, but you take that on, and that's all part of the abuser and how they do it. And you're a child, they're an adult. And it was only when I was trying to recover that I really sat there. I did lots of journaling. What is it that I really wanted to do? What was my real life purpose? And I literally sat down on a computer on the settee, and I typed, and I typed, and I could do it really quickly, and I just let everything come out of my mind. And that's when I thought, all those things you wanted to do when you were 16, you could actually do that now, because I knew I would use my voice one day to raise awareness. But in my own mind at that time at 16, I kept thinking about the NSPCC and how one day I would go back, speak in front of a room to share with everybody, firstly, the difference it made, because they also helped my family and myself later in life as well. But I wanted to go back to also share what was happening behind the doors. That if they hadn't have knocked on the door, how would it have been? And I do talk about abuse, because I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. And actually, we need those difficult conversations to raise awareness.
So that moves me on to actually my second question for you. So you mentioned Elaine Wilkins. Elaine Wilkins is the founder of the Chrysalis Effect, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So she has developed a practical program which helps people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, and fibromyalgia have support and guidance into their recovery. Is that correct?
Yes, Elaine
Yeah.
herself had ME and was bedbound.
Oh, right. So again, somebody's created this from their own experience.
Yes.
Who's been, fully living and breathing the condition.
Yes, yes. And when she was bedbound 10 years ago, the doctor's response was, well, this is it. This is your life.
So your sort of specialism in adverse childhood experiences, that's obviously your because of your own personal experiences.
Yes.
But there's no sort of set qualification you got from doing that. That's just pure, life experience. But the Chrysalis program was able to facilitate that and, give you that well-being coaching, credibility for you to then help others. One more question for you is your connection to the Female Entrepreneur Adventure Expedition. And how did that all come about? This is something that's happening in October, a trip to Malawi, I believe.
Right, well, I'll start by how I met Ania, because it broke all the rules. So I often go to networking meetings, business networking meetings, and this one was really, really busy. So, and there were various tables, and I'm a big believer in synchronicity. So I was sitting at this table, and I thought, do you know what? I will not be able to get to speak to everybody in this room. You couldn't really move either. And Ania was sitting at the end of the table I was on. It was a very big table. And at a business networking event, you stand up and do your minute. So she did her minute, I did my minute. But when she did hers, I thought, wow, she's just got this aura about her and this energy. And I thought, wow, I'd like to get to speak to you, because I always pinpoint one or two. But it was so busy that I couldn't get anywhere near her. And then as I was moving towards her, she had to run off. And she did the one thing that they say don't do. They say, don't just throw your business cards at people. But she said, here's my business card, I want to speak to you. Have you got yours? And we literally swapped cards. That was it. And then she interviewed me a couple of months ago. And right at the end of the call, she got me again. She said, right, Beverly, I really want you to come to Malawi. What's stopping you? So I said, okay, I'll be 100% honest. It's fear. And I gave her my reasons or my excuses. And one of them was sponsorship. And when I came down to my computer, it was as if someone had been listening. The universe was listening. I had a call with somebody, a client, stopped the call, and then it came up on Facebook about fundraising. So I thought, okay, that's my fears. And I thought, well, let's just give it a go, because I sat there for a minute and thought, do you want to go? And I thought, yes, I do. And then it was, why? And if you take away at the moment the different cultures, how I see it is that there's women that don't necessarily have the support that we're lucky to have around us at the moment, but they're looking to rebuild their lives and overcome adversity. It could be everyday adversity. It could be, some of them are rebuilding their lives after domestic violence, sexual violence. And do you know what? It could be so isolating. And by being able to see other people from different backgrounds, I know in my own self, by hearing other survivors talking, that's enabled me to be able to be where I am now, and the wonderful people in my life as I was growing up, to offset some of the not so nice things. So yeah, it just sung to my heart. And that girl who had the bed in the hostel at 16, to think that not only have I changed my own life, I love enabling others. That's my passion. And now to go to another country, I never even considered that I would go traveling, and traveling's very key to me now. but to be able to have, to be invited in to the homes of these women and to be able to share our stories and inspire each other, because I will learn from them as much as they will from me.
Fantastic interview, Beverly. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story, your professional story, your visions for your future, and to help other people in their futures. This expedition takes place in October. It's the Female Entrepreneur Adventure Expedition, and I'm just inspired by you and extremely grateful to have interviewed you today. And yes, where can we find more information about the expedition and about your services? Have you got a website you can mention now?
Yes, I am stepforwardcoaching.online. So you
Right.
can find me on Facebook. I'm Beverly Webb. You can find me on Twitter. I make
Great.
myself accessible, so I'm always contactable, even if you message.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Beverly. I'm Carly. I've been reporting for Wellness TV News today, and this has been a fantastic interview.